Hi, my name is Paul Sokoloff, and I'm a botanist at the Canadian Museum of Nature. As we get closer to Canada Day, you're probably starting to think about firing up the grill. And you're also probably starting to think about weeding your backyard. Here I'm going to show you how you can pick your weeds and eat them too. Now, before we go foraging, it's important to remember that we always have to know exactly what plant we're using before we pick it and before we eat it. Remember, if you don't know what it is, don't put it in your mouth. It's also important to remember to always pick in your own backyard and to always forage in places where you have permission of the landowner. I'm going to show you a few recipes that involve garlic mustard and dandelions. Alright, so we're back home from foraging. I've taken my weeds and I've rinsed them off really well to get rid of any residue that might be on the surface or any bugs. And I'm going to show you two very simple recipes that'll have you barbecue ready in no time. We're going to start with a garlic mustard pesto, which is a great condiment for burgers. It's good on pasta, any place you'd use regular pesto. And then we're going to move on to a simple vinaigrette for a dandelion green salad. We're going to start with a very simple pesto that's made out of garlic mustard. Now, the Latin name for this plant is Alaria petiolata. And just like its English common name, while it tastes super garlicky, it's actually in the mustard family. It's not very closely related to true garlic. Now, the leaves are full of a chemical compound that are very garlicky and pungent, but it's also got a bit of a peppery bite. So this is a great weed to forage in disturbed areas and backyards to make pesto. So like any other pesto, there are a few simple ingredients to add to this garlic mustard pesto, and then you can riff on it depending on your own taste. So the first thing we'll need are the picked and washed garlic mustard leaves. And they've got this very distinct kind of toothed shape, which will be useful as an identification characteristic. So, we've got several cups of this. We're just gonna throw this into a food processor bowl. You can hand chop this, but I'm gonna take a shortcut. I'm gonna use a food processor. Now, as if the garlic flavor wasn't already strong enough, we're going to add even more garlic. We're gonna add another little bit of garlic to just give that punch of flavor. And I like garlic. You can never have too much. I think most people are like that, or, on the other side. We're gonna add a little bit of lemon juice. We're just gonna squeeze a lemon in there. That adds a little brightness and acidity. And then the other important ingredient is olive oil. I'll add a bunch of olive oil to smooth it out. Now, depending on your own tastes, you might choose to add a nut, like pine nuts or pistachios are even great in a pesto. And you also probably are adding a bit of Parmesan cheese. Now, if you don't add any Parmesan cheese, I do recommend adding a little bit of salt. That'll help to bring out the flavors. All right, I'm just gonna blitz this up. And there you have it, a really simple garlic mustard pesto that is a perfect accompaniment to burgers in the backyard. Now we're going to move on to a simple vinaigrette to dress a garden salad of dandelion greens. This is the weedy dandelion, Taraxacum officinale. You can find this in every province and territory in Canada. It's everywhere. It's on lawns, you can find it even on the Belger Islands in Nunavut. The young greens are quite tender, and so they make a really good salad. Now, they can be a little bitter if you don't cook them, so we're going to use a citrusy vinaigrette to counteract that and add a little bit of sweetness and saltiness to make a really nice vinaigrette. Now I'm going to make a simple vinaigrette to dress our dandelion green salad. What we're gonna do is I'm gonna start off with a few minced cloves of garlic. I'm just gonna actually make this in a mason jar. I like to shake it up in a mason jar. It's just easier than any other way. And then we're going to add to that our lime juice. To give it a little more acidity, we're also gonna add some rice wine vinegar. A little bit of soy sauce. That's enough. And for sweetness, a touch of honey. And if you have shallots, you can add that to this. A little bit of sesame oil might be nice in this as well. All right, so I'm going to lid my mason jar, shake that up. And there we have our simple vinaigrette, very garlicky, citrusy vinaigrette for or dandelion green salad. So those are two very simple recipes that you can use to transform your backyard weeds into treats for your backyard Canada Day barbecue. Now remember those safety tips that we talked about at the beginning. Make sure there are no pesticide residues on anything, make sure you always have permission before you go foraging, and make sure you know what it is before you eat it. And this was actually kind of fun for me too, because normally I have to collect the plants and press them instead of cooking with them. And in fact, in the National Herbarium of Canada, which is held at the Canadian Museum of Nature, we have a pressed and dried library of over 1 million plant specimens that includes things like weeds. This helps us determine when plants were introduced by pinpointing a place and time that they've been collected over the centuries, but it also contains interesting things like native dandelions. Thank you, happy barbecue, and happy Canada Day.